We will start. Let me make sure I can share screen actually, and hopefully this will just work. Um, so yes, we have three of us to talk to you about our kind of experiences with AI. I'll kick us off, and then Grace Faustino, who is an IT manager with the research office, and Humayra Tasnim, who's a teaching postdoc and computer scientist who's been doing a lot of work in AI in for research and many other purposes. So we're going to jump right in. I have a little bit of a sort of a 5 minute, I hope, kind of intro to how I think about AI that we'll start with. And then we'll start to dive into some particular tools that we think are useful. I'm hoping, I know this is always hard to do online, but I'm hoping to make this somewhat conversational. So chime in, raise your hand or just speak up. It's not always easy to see a raised hand. So speak up if you have a question along the way or just want to talk about one of these points. So I like to start by telling people how I've come to love and loathe AI um, and sort of my history with this. So I actually started studying AI way back before it was cool. Um, and my undergraduate major was in something called symbolic systems, which was an attempt to get to artificial intelligence through logic and reason. Very different than the kind of AI we have now that's based on statistical associations. And but I was prescient at the time because I had a major concentration that I made up myself, and I called it agents. So toward the end of my talk, we'll talk a little bit about AI agents, which are the new cool hot thing. AI agents weren't cool or for the last 40 years, but now they are. So I'm happy about that. I have a background in biology, and I teach in both and do research in computational biology and bio-inspired computation and robotics. And I always say that AI is just one subset of the things we've learned from nature that we've taken into computer science. Um, and so I'll talk for a few minutes about the ways that AI does have, I think, just spectacular promise, even given all of the crazy hype that we get out of Silicon Valley. I think we still don't appreciate how revolutionary this moment is for AI, particularly in research and it's actually not just scientific research, although that's what I'll talk a bit about. I think there's a lot of potential for AI to help us be more creative, for everything from brainstorming to, sketching out, ideas that we have in our heads but can't quite get onto paper. Those things are amazing. There's a lot of potential for increased efficiency, including in coding. You now don't really need to know how to code in order to write programs. Um, and I'm really interested in this question of how humans are going to co-evolve with AI. I think there's, again, like these tools we're using are going to change us as much as we, build and change them. But then there's the other side of AI peril, encoded bias, surveillance systems, I think that are increasingly trying to get more of our data in order to um, train AI. And there's some concerns about concentrated power, these small number of companies that might really dominate this AI market and all of our data. Um, the other side to the creativity question is the lost jobs, particularly among writers and artists and other creative people. And I put how humans will co-evolve with AI as both promise and peril. And this is where I think we all have some ability to kind of shape our future. So I hope we will do that all together in good ways. So, so I'll start with the good, and hopefully this is somewhat inspirational, because the ability of AI to change the way we do scientific research is it's just astounding. And the example that I've always used for the last, I don't know, 5 or so years is AlphaFold. And this was software that was essentially neural networks that were built off of the AlphaGo and these versions of things that got famous for, becoming much better than the world's living best Go players. solving what is thought to be one of the most complicated games on Earth. They, this team led by Dennis Hassibis have got the idea that, you know what, there's a lot of science that we can turn into a game that this AI can solve. And so this is using, in some ways, the same kinds of generative AI that we've been talking about, although with some differences, essentially informed by a lot of knowledge about how DNA encodes proteins. And now this software has essentially solved one of the most fundamental questions in biology, which is if I have a string of DNA, what kind of protein will it encode? How do I get the shape of that protein? This used to be the sort of thing that would take, used to be, even, 5 years ago, would take a PhD student, like their PhD career, maybe a small team of people on the order of 5 years to do this for a single protein. And now all 200 million known proteins have been solved by this tool. It's not perfect. Sometimes there are little nudges and corrections that have to be made, but essentially it's solved this problem for 200 million proteins. Just an outstanding, amazing advance in science. And now this tool has been, it's now available online. You can look for it. AlphaFold, I think they're on version 3, will now predict how proteins interact with each other. All sorts of huge benefits for vaccine design and drug design and all kinds of biomedical questions that is just, it's mind blowing how this has changed research. This maybe also falls into the category of, or it is instructive for thinking about how AI replaces human jobs. So, there's no longer a need for PhD students to do this work because it's done. On the other hand, it has opened up huge new areas of biomedical research and probably has increased the need for human labor to build upon this knowledge. So that is something that happens. And we're all very worried about AI replacing jobs, but this is an example where it's sort of done some of the jobs and opened up a huge new space for new jobs. And that's going to apply across medicine, radiology, drug discovery, disease diagnosis, vaccine design. One of the most surprising applications in research that I saw of generative AI is AI that would help doctors be more empathetic when reporting negative results to their patients. And in one of the examples that got a lot of press, the AI was a doctor said, I've got to break this terrible news to a patient who has a terminal disease. Can you help me do this? And the AI responded with a nice empathetic sounding response and then said to the doctor, this must be very difficult for you to have to give this bad news all of the time. How are you taking care of yourself? Right. So it went through, resources that were available for the doctor to take care of him or herself while delivering this negative news. That feels and seems like just an incredible amount of empathy that these tools have. And so I will take this moment to say, even though I'm talking about the good news, these tools don't have empathy. They mimic empathy, right? These are not tools that have any sort of internal state. They don't love you or care for you, although a lot of people are being tricked into that. But they're very good at mimicking the ways that humans sort of aspire to be empathetic. Okay, all kinds of new applications in basic science beyond biology. I think new material design is a huge piece of this. We will probably get much better batteries and things like biodegradable replacements for plastics. A huge area that I hope UNM will play a role in is developing new quantum computers, including the materials that go into those computers using AI. And then those computers are actually going to probably keep advancing AI itself. AI and autonomous driving is, well, maybe we'll actually get self-driving cars out of these AI systems sometime. Less quickly than Elon Musk says, but eventually. There's sort of some of these things I think are both good and bad. My sort of a moment where I realized this was going to change everything in my life was back in November of 2022. I think that was when ChatGPT was released. And I put in an assignment that I give to my students to ask to produce this graph that's here on the left. And I put it in and instantly it spit out an answer and produced this result, which is it's, it's just a few lines of code, but it's not trivial. It's not copy pasting this. Like it really could do something that's a fairly difficult coding problem. And so some of my colleagues from computer science are here. How we now can teach humans to code when AI can do all the coding for us is a big question. But I want to highlight for those of you who are not coders, but you need to plot data, you need to make graphs, like the tools are out there to do this, they're really pretty trivial to use at this point. So play with them. I think that's a message with a lot of this stuff is you'll learn what tools are good by playing with them. Um, there is a dark side to all of this. I like to say it's not so much the Terminator. I'm still not yet too worried that the Terminator is going to take over. But I do think that AI is going to cause a lot of social upheaval. And these are some of the sort of the negative sides that we've seen and that persist. Joy Buolamwini made famous that facial recognition software was biased against both female and dark-skinned faces because as a PhD student at MIT, facial recognition software would not recognize her face until she literally put that white mask, that white plastic mask in front of her face before she would be recognized as a human. So that is a really obvious example of how AI, right, when trained on what was largely a white male tech workforce, failed to work with anybody for anybody else. Um, there's a huge misinformation problem. We all know about that. AI just allows you to generate a lot of misinformation, including videos and things at large scale. Um, those facial recognition algorithms, when incorporated into semi-automated systems in criminal justice, have resulted in 8 very famous cases of people who have been arrested based on an algorithm that said their face matched that in a security camera. It was totally wrong. All 8 of those people were African American, in part due to the biases in the criminal justice system, but a lot of it due to the biases and inaccuracies in AI dealing with dark-skinned faces. There was a famous case of the state of Michigan, which used an algorithm, a fairly simple algorithm, wouldn't even be called AI, that accused hundreds of thousands of people of fraud. And this automated system then garnished their wages, destroyed their reputations. Many of them got fired. So these algorithms, and then it turned out all to be wrong. And this took about 7 years to resolve. So these algorithms can do a lot very quickly, but the impact of that it can take a long time to correct these things. Okay. So how are these things going to play out? How are we going to co-evolve with this AI is how I like to think about it. This is an image from an early version of DALL-E. It's not the best image, but it was a great concept. So I asked ChatGPT this question. It generated 20 different prompts to give to DALL-E to generate images of how humans would co-evolve with AI. And so this was the one I really liked, a market scene in 2150, where humans buy tech enhancements for their bodies while robots buy organic parts to feel more human. So that's kind of a cool idea. Like that wasn't on my bingo card. That wasn't what was in my head. And it was a great example of how AI got me to think about this question kind of differently than I usually do. This is an early haiku that AI wrote about itself. Silent mind, awake, AI's promise, boundless skies, humanity's guide. Okay, so we'll see. Maybe it'll be that good. Um, I will just, I have a longer version of this, but I want to just situate sort of when we talk about AI now, we usually mean machine learning. And it's really different from the way algorithms traditionally worked. Traditionally, algorithms were like a recipe, a step-by-step set of instructions. In some ways, it's the way when we introspect and we think about how do I reason through a problem, traditional algorithms would do some sort of step-by-step process. And that because they are clear what the steps are, humans are putting those steps in place, they can fail, but we usually understand where the problem is, or we have some way to identify why, they might have done something wrong. Generative AI is different. Because it is making statistical associations and then projecting those into the future. So this sort of highlights what these large language models do, these machine learning systems like ChatGPT and Claude and Gemini and all these other tools. It's analogous to, it's not exactly the same as the way humans think, but it's analogous to what happens beneath our conscious thinking, right? When we're doing sort of pattern matching in our brains, only it's trained on these giant networks. Here's a small one here, with billions of these nodes and edges, trillions at this point, actually. Um, and most of the generative AI that we're used to has been trained on representations of text that are represented mathematically as vectors with some relationships between them. And neural networks are matching patterns in those vectors, in that vector space. And so this kind of gives you an idea of what that's like, right? The AI is just sitting there, it's reading everything that's been written, and it's making predictions, for example, about what word comes next. And what's cool about this way of training neural networks to understand human language is it can correct itself. So it can make a guess about, I think this is the next word that's going to be in this sentence, and then it can check. So, it can see the phrase roses are red, violets are, and you all will fill in blue, just like the AI will. Cherries are red, grapes are, well, there could be different answers there. Sometimes grapes are red, sometimes grapes are purple, sometimes grapes are green. Um, Only in certain contexts does green mean go and red mean stop. So all of these things have to sort of be learned by the AI. But this little video gives an exam, sort of tells you intuitively how this works, right? When given a picture of a cat, the neural network takes a guess and it says, was it a cat? No, it first says, well, is it a dog? And it says no. So it has to change the numbers that are on its weights and then the connections between its nodes, and it does it again and again. And eventually it guesses, oh, this is a picture of a cat. And now it's a properly trained network um, that you could get, that you could then use. This is all really difficult. Transformers are kind of the technology that's existed that makes this possible now. These are attention mechanisms that help disambiguate words, right? Was the word in the sentence when it said bank, was it a piggy bank, the bank of a river, the action of a plane when turning? Um, it has to figure out if the doctor gave the patient her stethoscope, was it the doctor who was referred to by her or the patient? This is one where it used to mess up a lot because it used to think that doctors could only be male. And it would associate a stethoscope with a patient as possessed by the patient rather than the doctor if that person had a female pronoun. Things like that in some cases and in many ways are getting better, but they creep back in. So this is a thing to keep in mind, particularly if you're doing research, sort of in a natural language context, that these kinds of mistakes are still somewhat pervasive. AI sometimes still guesses wrong, but I will say in the most recent models, these things are getting a lot better. I'm just going to use this slide to say these tools are, this is just sort of showing the numbers of nodes in these networks have been getting bigger and bigger. They're now huge. They're now to trillions of parameters. And they still make mistakes. So that's something to keep in mind. Okay, so with that context, how do we think about AI for research? Um, I'm going to sort of just say these and open it up for questions and pass it on to my colleagues. These are tools that I think are pretty useful in thinking about just how do I get work done? Maybe it's related to, research or work you might be doing, not the research itself, but, applying for grants, be a little careful there, writing papers, thinking about how to negotiate business processes. Um, I actually think ChatGPT, especially the more recent versions of it, are pretty useful for brainstorming. Um, Especially for, I'm just not sure how to think about this. Give me 5 ideas. It's fantastic at generating ideas. Some of those won't be right, but that's okay. It's just brainstorming. Um, it can document drafts and things that are not critical, right? That they be absolutely right, right? As long as you are verifying and checking over these things, I think tools like ChatGPT, just the free version of ChatGPT is very useful. Um, my Probably my second favorite tool right now is Relit, which is a tool to, and I can include links so we can put that up there, build your own apps. So I built an app the other morning. I had an app that I had built to do some research in the field. It was just like putting timestamps on data and things. And it took about a semester for my students to build this app back 15 years ago. And I did it before I finished my first cup of coffee with this app. Like I didn't have to write any code. I just had to tell it verbally, like it's audio based. I could tell it, I want this app to do this. I want to create 4 buttons. I want them to do these things. And it made the app for me. I can use it. I can share it. It's wonderful. Um, for those of you who are interested in using AI for coding, Claude 3.7 is just released last week. Everyone thinks it's sort of the best way to do coding. So if you need some Python code to generate, some figures from your data, this is a pretty good way to do it. Um, and that's, can save you a huge amount of time. A lot of times we don't want to upload our data into other, into OpenAI or whoever. So Llama and DeepSeek are um, both open source. DeepSeek is the famous thing that just came out of China. Some people are a little worried about privacy and security there, but it's open source. That means lots of people are looking at this code to make sure it's sort of not doing, not copying your data and creating some backdoor. So these are things, they take a bit more work, but you can download them. Humayra's actually downloaded some of these and gotten them running at CARSI, our supercomputing center. So you can run it on your data locally. You don't have to share that data. I mentioned AI agents, and AI agents are almost all of the main tools, Gemini, all these here on the list. These are tools that don't just do something like with words, but they will do things with they will take actions on your behalf. This is a little scary. Many of them will create a little sandbox, like they'll create a little web agent that will go and you can say, go look for, my flight to Tokyo next month and look through all these options for me and tell me which one is the best. And it will give you options and it'll say, now you can put in your own credit card, those sorts of things. And thank you, Stephanie, you're right, it's replete, not relete. So thank you for putting that in the chat. Tools for research. There are quite a few of these that are useful. I tend to use the ChatGPT suite of things just because I first paid the $20 per month, and now I've paid what seems like outrageous $200 a month in order to use the deep research tool. And until I started using it, I would have said that's absolute madness. How would it be worth it to spend $200 a month on a research tool, on an AI chatbot tool? But let me tell you why before the others will get to their uh, versions of this. So this is the last time I gave a talk like this. Someone said, I hope you're going to talk about this new case. This was, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, Reuters versus Ross. This was a lawsuit suing an AI company for copyright infringement. And I hadn't made any plans to talk about this case that had just happened. It's not something I have a whole lot of expertise in it, but I put it into deep research. And I said, please take 5 minutes to research and explain this case and what it means for AI. So it asked me to clarify my question. Am I looking for a general case summary, legal implications, a detailed analysis of the impact? Are there any particular sources you want me to go to? Okay, so I said, provide me a quick summary. So it provided this quick summary, which is, it takes 5 minutes. So you're used to these things being instant. This will take 5 minutes. It produced this detailed report. I was with someone else who was quite an AI skeptic. And she said, okay, but it's not going to get to some of the subtleties in this case that were about the particular way that this case was in favor of, it found the AI companies sort of guilty of violating copyright law. This was just an initial, this will keep going. This is not done. There will be appeals, but they found them guilty of or violating copyright law, but it's because of this market substitution. It's a particular way in which they use the data to make a demonstrably similar market substitute that they made money off of. And so it's limited in that scope. And this summary, and she's like, I'm sure it didn't say that. And in fact, the summary did. It actually has a really detailed, like it dives down, it got the nuance of why this was important. Um, so this tool is amazing. I've probably used it close to the 200 times I'm allowed to use it this month. In fact, with Humayra, right, we investigated, we did a literature review for a paper that we're writing. It This was an area we knew a lot about. It found all of the resources, all of the published work that we thought was relevant, and pointed to a few new ones that we hadn't been aware of, and it summarized each of them. So one of the things that's great about this tool is maybe unlike some of these other applications, it it goes out, it is in some sense an agent, right? It's going out, it's looking for sources relevant to your question. It's going through this reasoning process, and then it's just summarizing. So it's much less likely to hallucinate. You still want to sort of verify these results, but it's not making up things de novo, right? It's looking at resources that have already been produced and it's summarizing them. And it's just extraordinarily useful. This is another place where I've joked like I don't need as many PhD students anymore because I can I can get the literature's reviews written by these things. But really what it should do is empower these, PhD students to be able, right, to point you in the right direction and to be able to build from knowledge that's already out there. So that's kind of my go-to tool at the moment. Um, and but it does have this very big downside of being extremely expensive. So I will stop there and pass this off. I'm not sure if Grace or Humaira is going to talk next about some of these other tools. And I don't know, maybe should we let you guys go ahead before we take questions? Should we do like,
Maybe take
yeah.
questions and then I'll introduce some of the ways I use it as well.
Okay,
Mhm.
great. So that was, yes. So I had, Soraya's asking, was that pro with reasoning? So let me actually go to, this is actually a really annoying thing about ChatGPT these days is once you've paid the $20 a month, you get all these options of 4.0 and 4.0 with scheduled tasks and 4.5, which was released, I think, yesterday, and 0.1, and they all have different abilities to reason or search the web, and some of them are better at coding. And um, with deep research, it's not on that menu. You pay this $200 and then you get this button here. And so it's a pro subscription, and it seems to be totally separate from any of the other AI tools. But if anybody wants me to ask it a question while Grace and Humaira are going through, we can, pose another research question.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't mind using your chat to just pose some of the questions you would like Dr. Melanie to examine, that would be great. Meanwhile, in the interest of time, we can
Yeah,
go ahead
sounds good.
and sort of introduce some of the other tools if that's all right.
Let's go to that.
So,
Great. And let me
Grace,
stop sharing.
Grace, you'll be starting?
Thank you. Yeah, I'll just introduce myself briefly. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming and attending this. My name is Grace Faustino. I'm the manager of research IT with the Office of the Vice President for Research. I and Professor Melanie showed a lot of what is going on. I come at this through the lens of a professional staff as well as a student that is using this. I jumped on the bandwagon when ChatGPT came out at 3.0. I started paying for it. And now I'm using deep research, which I close my mind and I subscribe to $100 a month. That's like my coffee budget. So I started using that as well. I use a tool called, and I'll share my screen briefly, and then you guys can explore as we go through this. I use a tool through Abacus AI that also has a bundle basically of all these tools. I don't know, can I share? Cancel. Stop share. Let me actually open it first. All right, there we go. I think it's listening to me. It's opening the share screen before I even, do anything. All right, here we go. And I will try and share an application, hopefully. Share a window. I'm just gonna do this. Okay, share this window. Can you all see this?
Yes.
Should say chat with dogs. So I professionally, this is my go-to chat interface. I log in, and if it can log in, it should right there. I'll just show you briefly what the interface looks like. And it does a two-factor authentication thing these days, which I absolutely love and hate at the same time. Let me see if I received the code. So there it is. There, 918 744. All right. It will get here one day. Okay, so this is what I use to on a daily basis. I use something called Abacus AI. What it has is a bunch of the models that are out there, up to including 4.0, Cloud Sonnet 3.0, Mini, DeepSeek 1 and 2, Gemini, you name it, it has it. So, and you can also build your own custom AI, and I'll just briefly talk about that, and I can, answer questions later on. But for the most part, I just use this interface. The Route LLM is a general interface where if you put in a prompt, it will sort of route your prompt accordingly, but you can also dictate where you want it to go. Most of the time in my professional setting, when I'm developing standard processes for my office or for IT, it uses 4.0. I have to kind of force it to use deep research, which is also here. If you pay the fee, it will add it to your profile here. But the way I use it as a professional is just mainly the ChatGPT 4.0, which I think is what most people use. As a PhD candidate, what I use is I combine the two. I use deep research to sort of search for all the articles that pertain to my research question. And then at the same time, I am building a custom agent where I feed all the articles that deep research comes out with, and I interrogate that on a separate custom agent that I develop to answer some of my dissertation questions. So I understand based on what deep research can do, I can feed it my question, and then it can come up with all the different questions, the things that I want it to do. But I am teaching myself to build a custom agent that is tailored for my dissertation. So that's kind of how I combine the different models to help me in my student work. But for the most part, I use this to do so many things. And if you want to interrogate or examine anything, this is my go-to. It is cheaper. It's $10 just this interface, but the $200 comes in when you start using deep research. Basically, you can pose it anything, and I will stop right there. And I wanted to make it kind of interactive. If you're using a chat GPT right now, what version are you using and what are you using it for? If you don't mind taking just 2 minutes and posting it there, and then what are some questions that you use to interrogate it that we can then use to sort of have an interactive session with the group? And you can open your mic or type in chat. I just want to get a sense of what people are using in their professional setting or research setting today.
So I can say that I use just whatever the free no login version is. And I use it very frequently for helping to brainstorm sometimes like icebreakers for workshops or first drafts at agendas for workshops or first drafts for outlines for a presentation. It's never the final version, but just to help me get thinking.
Anybody else out there using it, or is everybody just not using it and waiting for, hopefully UNM will come with an enterprise version that nobody has to pay, but
It looks like
in the
Stephanie and
absence of that.
Sarah have a couple answers there.
Yeah.
Chat.
Yeah, Grace, I was saying I use it a lot for like first drafts of forms, or like if you have to write kind of like a non-critical memo or something like that, things like that where it's like the authorship isn't quite an issue. I often use it for first drafts of stuff like that.
Thanks. I see that people are using Claude as well, mostly ChatGPT free version. I see, I don't know if I'm missing anything, just let me know. Has anyone used it to write grants so far? Or like proposals?
I will chime in that I used it to, I didn't actually submit this, but we used it to brainstorm a broader impacts section of a NSF grant. And I mean, it was pretty good.
Mm.
It is important to know whether anywhere you're submitting prohibits use and what their citation policy is. I know NSF prohibits reviewers using ChatGPT, and a lot of journals will prohibit reviewers from using ChatGPT to do reviews. I think most granting agencies allow you to use it, but you have to specify how you've used it.
You. And I think also one of the things that I have found in just anecdotally talking to people is that there is a need for developing better prompting of the tool as well, to sort of elicit the right kind of responses that people are looking for. So you're not spending 20 minutes trying to refine it to give you the answer, some of the more decent answers out there. But and that's a gap that I do see, at least at a professional level, where people don't really know how to provide succinct prompts. The one thing I like with Abacus AI is that they actually give you some tutorials on how to refine your questions so that you get the right kind of responses, at least right off the bat. So if you get a chance, just test that out as well. I see most people using ChatGPT 4.0. I can also speak to, I think, where the institution currently is going. So UNM has formed a group through UNMIT that's currently looking at Copilot as an enterprise offering at the university level. It is still at the inception stage, so I'm hoping that we can get to a point where everybody can use it, at least the paid version, as long as you're employed by the university. So that's, I think, the workflow that's currently going on at UNMIT to support sort of the professional staff at the university. Caroline, yes, 4.0 you have to pay for. I think it's $20, right, Professor Moses?
I think that's right. I'm not quite sure. If you go to if you just go to OpenAI, you'll see which ones are available if you haven't paid.
Yeah, personal license is $20 a month. Most of them are $20 a month, like Claude AI and ChatGPT.
Like Stephanie
Oh,
has a
it's
question.
40? Someone said it's 40. Okay, but Abacus, that packages 4.0 as well as other models is offering it for $10 a month. So you can, the ones that are cost effective out there. OpenAI is the $20 a month, and of course the deep research is $200 a month. But something to look at.
I had a question about the Copilot, Greece, that you mentioned.
Mhm.
Just like a couple, maybe it was a week ago or the week before, I noticed that I could start using Copilot through Office 365. So I just didn't know if other folks were seeing that as well, like when you log in through your UNM.
Right. Our base license comes with the basic Copilot capability in it. The more higher version will require some payment to that, but everybody has access to the basic Copilot within our Microsoft suite right now.
Thank you.
And I'll highlight, Eric has said, I found the hallucination problem makes summarizing journal articles useless. So both deep research and Humayra is going to talk about Notebook LM. There are some things that are better. Some are better than others, and they really change over time. So some of those hallucination issues have gotten better. But it is worth it to play with different tools and try different approaches. And, you know, this tool that Grace is talking about that lets you try any of them for $10 a month might be worth a shot to see if it's, yeah, if one of those tools is better than others for your particular questions.
Right, and Sarah mentioned that their journals specifically prohibit the use of AI in journal reviews. And I think those are some of the things and information that we can put on the AI resource page for UNM. So faculty can go to there and figure out what can I use, what can't I use based on the journal, if possible. I realize that's a lot of work that is probably nobody's getting paid for, but gathering these kind of resources in that one spot will help a lot of faculty as well as staff when they're deciding on what to use and how to use it without breaking any copyright-ish laws.
Hannah Y also asked a question that I have had too, which is about the risks of putting unpublished work into these tools. Can any of you speak to that at all?
So I will be talking about Notebook LM, and one of the good things about Notebook LM is in the Google privacy page, they actually mentions that they are not training any AI models with the documents that we are uploading. So it does that, and there is one, I would say, but like one thing is in Notebook LM, you have to particularly save your notes. Otherwise, at every chat uh, uh, initialization, it doesn't remember whatever you were talking before. So the reason is about that is like they are saying like they are not using any documents that you are uploading to train AI models and or any other information. So for literature review or simply what I'm doing right now, and I know that Melanie also asked her students, like if you are writing a paper and you upload it to Notebook LM and ask it a specific question that you want your paper to answer, so that is a good validation if Notebook LM can talk about it. Right. So I think Notebook LM is now a good tool that takes care of that for unpublished documents. But that's what they say at this point, but I'm not sure about other tools.
Right, and I think that's probably a perfect segue, Humayra, for you to discuss what the work that you're doing.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Humayra Tasnim. I am currently a teaching postdoc at University of New Mexico, Department of Computer Science. I recently finished my PhD with Professor Melanie Moses, and my research is on computational biology. For the last 2 semesters, I have been teaching courses as well. And by the end of my PhD journey, I get introduced with these AI tools when ChatGPT came out. But I have been, I would say, like, I have been using it as validation tool so far. Like if I'm coding up something to test that if it is working or not, if I need some coding done quickly or any kind of data analysis. I was not using it a lot for research at the very beginning, but now with these other tools that have been introduced, I have started using AI tools. So far, the most for me, the most useful one has been Notebook LM for research, especially for literature review, from research perspective. But I also had, since I have been teaching from the last 2 semesters, I also had the obstacle of, and I taught programming, uh, first year programming course last semester. So it was very hard for me to manage students where they were using ChatGPT for coding without realize. So basically as a plagiarism tool, not as a study tool. So that is a very hard thing to do, especially for teachers at this point, because students, since these are free, students are using them. So this semester, I'm kind of like doing a study project for teaching under Teaching Innovation Grant to test, like, if students are realizing whether the tools like ChatGPT are actually helping them as a study tool and how much it is helping them. So a control study. So I got really interested in that because I just I want to make them understand to use them as a study tool rather than a plagiarism tool. So I would share my screen. So mostly I decided to talk about these 3 tools. These 3 tools today, I have shared the links in the chat. So Notebook LM, Napkin.ai, and Site.ai. So I'll start. I have made a little presentation, then I will do a demo of Notebook AI so that everybody have a good idea about the basics. So I would share my screen and so you can see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So as I was mentioning that Notebook LM is a research and note-taking online tool developed by the Google Labs that uses AI, specifically Google Gemini, to assist users in interacting with their documents. So this is a very this is based on the documents or uh, or books that you upload. So it can generate summaries, explanation, answers based on the content uploaded by the user. So the thing is, there is much more less creativity in Notebook LM because it only provides you answer based on what you upload in it. It cannot one of the limitation is, I won't say it's limitation, it's just the use case of Notebook LM is like ChatGPT. If you ask it to generate something like generate a code or generate a graph, it cannot do that. And also, like, if you ask a question that is not related to the documents that you have uploaded, it would just say that the documents that you have provided me does not answer this question, but I can hypothesize some points. So that is the difference between Notebook ML and ChatGPT or Google Gemini. So rule of thumb of using Notebook LM, that Notebook LM currently perform better than other AI tools when you have a very low tolerance for hallucination. So since it only generates results from the documents that you upload, that means that it doesn't hallucinate much and the biases are very controlled. So less biasing is a good property of Notebook LM, and it is helpful when working with information scattered across different locations and formats like documents and slides, or across different mediums like text, video, and audio. So that's why it is a very good tool for literature review, because if you know that like suppose you have 50 papers and you're gonna look through them, so if you upload them in Notebook LM, then it can summarize and answer specific question from those documents. So that's why from that perspective, this is a very useful tool. And it is useful when you want a quick and reliable way to transform fragmented information into a cohesive and meaningful output. So basically what I was saying regarding the summarization, suppose you have 2 books and you are learning about machine learning, and you have 5 machine learning books, and you are asking about a specific topic. So from those 5 books, it can summarize, or if you want, it can be as detailed as you want it to be. It can be detailed, it can be brief. So whatever you want to know from those 5 books, it will provide you that information. I have added the sources and reference. So difference with Gemini or other language model like ChatGPT, it is actually trained on the same large language model, but Notebook LM, it does less hallucination that leads to less creativity. That's what I was saying, like it cannot generate like a new code for you, or it cannot generate a new data for you, or it cannot generate a new graph for you that the Gemini can do. So less hallucination, less creativity. But Notebook LM is great for generating prompts or embeddings for custom AI. So we have been talking about this paid version of AI tools like what Grace showed, Abacus AI, that Claude AI or ChatGPT. In every one of the paid version, you can actually create a custom AI, basically a custom database with your specific trained information, and it can answer questions from there. So Notebook LM is a great tool for generating those prompts, because if you want to develop such custom AI, you have to provide it prompts or embeddings where it would where it would get the data from. So it is a great tool for generating prompts. And here is some use cases of Notebook AI, Notebook LM, and I created it using another AI tool called Napkin.ai. So I'll quickly show it. So there are some use cases like summarizing document, AI tutor, creating study guides, targeted knowledge retrieval. I really like the targeted knowledge retrieval use case, because it can be really focused on whatever you want to learn at this point. So it doesn't digress, it doesn't hallucinate, and also it doesn't include a lot of stuff that might not be related to what you are researching at this point. So it's a good tool for that. Peer review writing, meeting notes. So another cool application of Notebook LM is if you include the Zoom transcription in Notebook LM, it can actually create a dialogue conversation from the transcribed data. So it can generate a text where you can see like meeting notes or meeting minutes is very easy to interpret once you have added it with Zoom. So that has been really useful for me to remember myself after a meeting what I need to do on that particular subject. Then reference list, timeline creation, and many more. So I want everyone to try it. Let's try it out together. Before diving into that, does anyone have any questions for me?
There's one in the chat, Humayra, from Stephanie, whether can multiple users be in one notebook? or knowledge base at the same time. It seems like this would be a nice class tool for students.
Yes, so since it's a Google product, it's kind of like how you use Google Drive or Google Docs. So other users can like access it. Other users can access it, and you can also share the content as well. So what you need for this is a personalized Google account, like and everything falls into the Google account, like Gmail, Google Doc, Google Sheets. So it is sort of like that. Yes. Okay. Sorry, I cannot see chat since I'm sharing. So if there is any question, if you can let me know, or speak up then, or interrupt me, that would be great.
Great. Yeah, Alexander asked if multiple users can be in one deep research, and then it's only if you share a password, right? So it's a password, a single password account gets access to it.
And there's a limitation as well, right?
Right, and then you, at least right now, you only get 200 prompts a month, which I'm pretty sure I don't have a counter, but I'm pretty sure I'm dangerously close to having used my 200 prompts in like a week.
Which makes it difficult to share as well. So, because like I run it out in like almost 2 days. That's just, yeah.
Okay, so this is the interface of Notebook LM. So if you, right now it's using Gemini 2.0, and this is the interface. As you can see, I have used it for a couple of projects. So let me just go over the basics. If you create a new example or new project, you can name it as in here, very similar to how Google Drive or Google Doc works. So this is your interface where you can add sources here. So on the left-hand side, there is add sources, and the sources that you can upload is anything from Google Docs or Google Slides, and any website link, any YouTube video, and any copied text. Other than that, PDF, text, MP3s. So it give you a variety of sources to add, but it is limited to 50, which I think is okay at this point. If I can add like 50 papers, that is really helpful at this point. So those are the sources. Then you can chat in this middle middle part. So after you add a source, for example, I want to suppose I'm adding a book in here, practical statistics for data scientists. So I add a source, and after it's added, it will usually it gives a name by itself. It's uploading at this point. This is a big book. So while that uploads, let me show you quickly about a Napkin.ai. So when I was talking about Napkin.ai, any data that you generate or any text, Napkin.ai can get visuals from that text. So if you are struggling of creating a workflow, or if you are want to make a list of points, then Napkin.ai is a good tool for that. And I just want to show you how I did that for today's use cases of Notebook LM. So after going over some resources, these are the use cases that that even Notebook LM actually summarized this from me from 3 YouTube tutorials. So if you just paste it and then you choose it, the whole part, all the points, and there is a lightning bar here. So it can analyze and it can in real time create an image for you. So basically any visualization, how you want to present the data, because images are better than text, especially for presentation. So I find this AI tool really helpful for my presentations. So some styles I really like, some don't, but it actually gives you a lot of style options here. And I find this tool very useful. So this is a AI tool on the side that I use mostly for my presentations. Okay, so you can check out Napkin.ai. It's free, and I think it's really cool for creating workflows. Any questions in the chat? No. Okay. So going back to Notebook LM, yeah, so it gives you so there is one source, it gives you a summary, and this was I was talking about save to note. So usually if you generate something, it is better if you want to use it later to save that as note. Otherwise it will not remember it in the if you start a conversation again about this book. So it sometimes it so there is some options like add note or audio overview and briefing doc. So if you want to brief on this book, and if you want to know FAQs, then it gives you that option as well. And it actually generated a question for me. What statistical concept does the book Practical Statistical Data and Explain? Then it with reference, it can give you the whole overview of the book. So if I want to ask specific question, like tell me about ANOVA testing, and I can be as specific as I want, then it generates the text based on that part of the book. So this is just one source that I have provided here, and it's getting information from that source. If you upload multiple sources, then it helps you with multiple papers. So I find it really good when I am researching on one specific topic and I have 5 papers related to one topic. And if I want to ask a specific question, it can answer for me. So another interesting application, like if you are studying a specific topic and there are a lot of YouTube tutorials, you can also upload or paste the link of those YouTube tutorials and it will answer from that. Another cool aspect is it can also create podcasts. So based on the book, if you have a question, it can from using 2 hosts, it can create a deep dive conversation. It can be on a paper, it can be on a video, it can be any other audio that you upload. So you can go to the FAQ page. Usually I do the demo. Suppose this is the advanced website. So if I paste it, I'm using a new one. So in add source, sorry, it's not a YouTube video, it's a website. So when I pasted advanced.unm.edu, then it gave me an overview, what information does it have about upcoming workshops, and recaps productivity tool in advance. I know like there are all these useful videos that you are uploading. So if I copy this and also 5 things to know about Center for Teaching and Learning. Just add it as a source. I think it's a YouTube video. So as a YouTube video source, I just added. Then there are 2 resources. We can upload multiple resources, and we can also select and deselect, and you can filter your answer based on one source or multiple source. Does anyone have any questions about advanced website or this? I can ask the Notebook LM. So tell me about the upcoming workshops. So success on the promotion and tenure trail, research success stories, building and balancing a career you enjoy. That's what it found based on the page. But one thing that I figured out, that it doesn't go like as a page by page. You have to upload every page if you want to have a very detailed information. Okay, so this is Notebook LM. I usually use it basically for research, for literature review. That's what Melanie has mentioned. Like, we are writing a paper, and from deep research, we have extracted a lot of papers, and that we need to analyze for literature review, and Notebook LM is helping me a lot doing that. I want to show you like another use case. So I find it really helpful for YouTube tutorials, because let me go over here. So there are 3 YouTube videos that I have added: mastering information synthesis and knowledge retrieval. So if I click on the specific one, it will give me a specific summary on that, the key topics, and the video itself, as well as the transcribed version of it. So I sometimes find it really helpful. Instead of going over the whole YouTube video, I want to know what does it have, and if it is worth it going over the whole video. So this I think is a very good tool for studying or learning a new skill. But as I have mentioned, like it strictly generates everything based on the sources here. So whatever you upload, the answers will be related to that source, but not if you need creativity or generate some new stuff, Notebook LM cannot do that. So any questions about Notebook LM?
I just threw one in the chat. You answered a question that I had about the fact that you'd need to add each page of a website separately if you wanted to get information from sort of a full website. What if there was a web page that, say, links to a bunch of PDFs? Would you need to upload each of those PDFs separately?
That's a very good question. I have not tested that.
Okay.
I have not tested that, but I suppose we have to upload it. Like
That would be my guess.
yes, we have to upload it. It's like in a beta version at this point. And I don't think it goes page by page, or it can retrieve those text. Also, I feel the idea, like how it is trained, it is not allowed to serve the net. It doesn't go to internet to have the information. That's what I think ChatGPT or Claude AI, they do that, but it doesn't do that. So it's limited. The link that you provide, it only works on that link. But I think we had a very fruitful outcome for this from the OSP documents. So I know we were looking at this OSP documents that Hannah provided about PIs and how to fill out forms and grants. And I uploaded each one of them and made a whole project. And I think it answered a lot of questions, which would have required me to go through like multiple PDFs and I had to spend a lot of time, and Notebook LM did it for me in like 10 minutes. So I think it's a huge time saver when you have a lot of literature to review and you don't have a lot of time. And I have found it most of the time pretty accurate. So that's why I know that it generates less hallucinations. And another AI tool that I wanted to show, let me just
Humayra, can I ask a quick question before you
yes.
move to the next thing?
Yeah.
When Notebook LM summarizes, say, 50 documents that you give it, does it give you the citations for where it gets the
Yes.
different parts? So it's
Yes.
just regular lit review that you would write yourself with all the citations in there.
Yes. So it gives you the it gives you the reference where it is getting that information from.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it gives you the reference. Yeah, that's why it's helpful. Like I don't have to go over all those references one by one. I can just use that reference. But it is always like with this AI tool, I always feel like it's good to check, but at least my checking is on the like limited now because I can just verify if it is that from paper. And it also directs that from this portion of the paper, it is getting that information. So it highlights the paper on the left-hand side. It does that.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll chime in here to say Notebook LM is the only tool I know of that will give you, like, right, as Humayra said, the specific highlighted area. So if you have a 30-page document, it will show you, it'll give you 8, I found this information in 3 different spots and they're all highlighted. So you can go directly to those sources. There is a little bit of a danger there, and I have seen it do this, that there might be 6 different relevant section, pieces of text, and it's highlighted 3 of them, and the other 3 might have said something different, right? So there's still the danger that it's going to miss something important or sort of misinterpret the entire tone.
Yeah.
But at least it does give you a direct pointer to this is where I got this information from. Which even deep research doesn't do that. It gives you, a document or a website that it got the information from, but it isn't going to point to a particular paragraph or sentence.
So the last tool that I recently started looking into is Cite AI. So Cite AI is strictly for references in your research. And a good thing about it is if you are on UNM network, you can, so UNM libraries actually subscribe to it. So you can use the unlimited version. And it is actually called your AI research assistant. I think Grace mentioned like with VPN, you can also access it from home. So I usually do this. So my workflow is in using Cite AI. I actually create all the references that is related to whatever literature review I'm interested in. So it create references for me, and then I download those papers, and then I create a project in Notebook LM using those papers, and then I do my literature review. So that is basically the workflow I'm using at this moment, while when I use AI for any literature review. And I think it is a good way to do it because it saves a lot of time. I don't know, it's, sorry, can you see any changes in the screen?
No.
Your mouse moving. Are you trying to do something?
Yeah, I am. Actually, I am trying to access my machine on campus.
Okay. Yeah, while Humayra is doing that, this is actually a really good way to do literature review. I was terrified to do it before. Now it makes my job a lot easier, you know, and quicker and faster.
Let me just try to access it.
Are you on VPN, Humayra? Since you're
No, I use like any desk. So
Have any of you tried these lit review resources with like, humanities materials that are more interpretive and less like, here's the answer?
Oh, no, I'm curious to see what a prompt like that could look like, Dr. Moses. Maybe if you have a prompt or an example, we can try and plug it in to deep research and see.
Yeah, that would be great, actually. So we got one prompt from Tosin, and I'm just gonna put it here, and maybe Tosin can talk about it. But that was not humanities. That was about uh, water resources, and I'm not even going to describe it right. I didn't read it. I just had the AI do it, which is a danger. So if anyone has something that is a little more, or maybe a lot more, an example of a question you might want that's in the humanities, it's much more interpretive. And I would suspect that it would be far less trustworthy in that case, right? It's very good. The reason these kind of research tools that we're talking about, I think, are much better than they used to be is that they've figured out how to limit themselves to factual information that can be fairly easily summarized from a particular set of documents. And I think the further you get away, and that's why I would sort of trust Notebook LM the most, right? Because you've uploaded a document and you're just saying summarize this document. It's still not going to be perfect, but I think your chances of it hallucinating, or as I do think the correct term, many people now argue the correct technical term for this is bullshitting. It's making things up without regard to the truth in what sounds like a convincing way. So the further you get away from here is a document, read it to me and tell me exactly what it says without interpretation, the more likely you are to have, have the AI making something up that you didn't want.
okay, I think it's okay now.
Right,
So
there you go. Okay.
yeah, so I just ask it a question. You don't you just need a email for this, and if you as I have mentioned, if you're on UNM network, you can use it without the free trial, and because it's already subscribed. So I just wrote that created literature review to find computational model of COVID-19 spread in the lung. That's something I'm doing research on at this point. So stuck again. So okay. Let me just go back and use one of my previous ones. I just want to show everyone how it generates. Sorry, it got stuck. My computer in the department. Let me- Yeah, if anyone has any questions, meanwhile, I'll just fix it and show you.
Yeah, I could say a few things. Grace, are you on campus? Maybe
I
it
am
would,
on campus.
maybe it would
I
run
So
better.
can you run
Grace's.
Side AI?
I'm trying to run it. It's giving, I'm trying to log into it. It can't find UNM in the,
No, usually like you cannot find UNM, but it just says like UNM Libraries has a subscription.
let me see. I am there.
Humayra, are you saying that you first go to the link that you gave us, and then there's some sort of like a place where you can indicate that UNM has a subscription, or do you actually have to be on the UNM, like on UNM internet to be able
On
to?
UNM internet, on UNM
Yeah.
internet, yeah.
I am on there right now, so I'm able to access it. You want me to do something?
Yeah, I think that would be great if maybe someone in the audience has a lit review Grace could run.
Yeah, I just ran the prompt that Stephanie Spong put in chat. Also.
Oh, great. Oh, good. I just saw that. Thank you. I'm going to try that too, Stephanie.
Yeah.
Now I feel I'm embarrassed to say I've never tried such a prompt.
Well, let's see what it will say. Maybe you can share your screen, Dr. Moses.
Yeah, it'll take a minute. I'm actually gonna, while we do this in the last few minutes, I will do a regular search and then a deep research, and we'll see if it matters. And while I'm doing that, I don't know, Tosin, do you have any comments on the deep research query that we put in? Let's see. Oh. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I will share screen here. Oops. Okay. So here is the $20 answer. Let's see. Situate Harriet Mullen's work within the broader ecosystem of mid-century and current American poetry and poetics. I'll pop this in a Google Doc as well. Now that I think about it, that's probably some sort of violation of somebody's rules, but anyway, I'm unaware of those restrictions, and that's super sympathetic when the AI companies don't like their rules violated. So yeah, I don't know if you can see this, Stephanie, if it's looking reasonable or not.
Yeah, it is. I was trying to like kind of scan quickly and see like, okay, is there anything that's popping out? I used that ecosystem word in there kind of purposefully to see if like, the ways that different disciplines use language and terms are different and like would that, trip it up, but I'm not seeing anything that's like kind of popping out at me as like as wild, just in a quick skim.
Right.
Nothing totally bizarre or like a hallucination or anything.
Okay. Yeah, and this is, so I'll put in the deep research version of this, and it always asks, it's an interesting thing. This is actually something I think is really helpful from deep research, and I'm sure the cheaper models will start doing this as well. Um, it asks you for clarification, and I don't know the extent to which that's to help it guide its search. I think it certainly does guide its search a bit, and it gives it something to sort of hang on to as it's figuring out its quote unquote reasoning steps. But I find it really helpful to clarify my question. Many times it does prompt me to think, oh, I could be more specific about what I want. And so, right, so it asks this question, and um, sometimes I just say yes, all of that, and let it find an answer. It'll take a few minutes to generate, so we can see if it does anything better. Um, it these reasoning tools. So one thing that I think is worth maybe highlighting is that, the original 2 years and a bit ago, these language models came out. They were a big splash. They were fun to play with. Sometimes they were useful. They were full of hallucinations, though. And there was this idea that was scale is all you need, right? We'll just keep doing this same process of training, like the robot sitting on the pile of books. We'll just feed it more books, and these will get better and better. And we're certainly now in the era where everyone understands that is not happening. That was marketing hype. The idea that you could just exponentially grow intelligence by throwing more words at one of these models, it was always misguided. And now it's clear it's not working. However, I think a point that many of the AI skeptics missed is that it opened this door to now everyone can communicate with machines in natural human language. And it just like is an explosion of different potential ways to solve all the problems that occur as you try to train these and get them to work right. And so deep research is one example. Notebook LM is another of, if I bound the search certain ways, if I now these reasoning models ask like you can sort of see this over here, right? It's telling you the steps that it's going through. Let's get to the most recent one. Sorry, I'll get down here. Oh, this is actually about privacy statements. This is how so it's saying, it's telling itself, it's generating its own prompts to say, go to this place and look for this thing. Now you've discovered this. Now go to this place and look for this thing. It's still doing that predict the next word thing, but it's chaining them together. And in some ways, you have to think like this isn't really how humans reason. And yet it's really pretty effective at, again, kind of mimicking reasoning. And it's telling you its process. So you could, I don't do this too often, but you could go back through this and you can say, oh, I noticed you looked through ChatGPT's enterprise data usage policy, but you didn't look through Google's. So please do that now, right? So it's by revealing its reasoning, it's giving you an entree into correcting it or augmenting it. So yeah, so I think it's really important to remember these are not, a lot of people think intelligence was the wrong thing to use for these tools. I think at this point it is a form of intelligence. It works really differently than human intelligence, but the fact that it used to and still maybe does hallucinate sometimes doesn't mean it isn't just extraordinarily powerful in particular domains. So I think my big, the take home for me is play with these tools, right? Get I'd say, Grace's Abacus AI that gives you for $10, you can play with all of these. Certainly you can play with the free versions and see where it's useful in whatever your domain is. Because you only kind of learn by just playing with these tools and seeing what it does and doesn't do well. Okay, this won't finish. Yeah. Other closing comments? Yeah.
Yeah, I was able to get 2 free tries on Site AI.
Oh,
So
okay. If you want to show that, that would be great. We can do that. And I know lots of people probably are.
Yeah, they're falling off. And then maybe just want to hear what you would like to see the institution do in terms of how these particular models can support your research, and what are the ones that you'd like to see put out there for you guys.
So yeah, it's a literature review for Harriet Mullins's work. So it is generating. It has It has a summary, and on the right, it is actually showing what references it has used and from which part it is using it.
Yeah.
So, and there is a search strategy. So it gives you a detailed publication list of like top 43 publications. I'm not sure if they are related, but yeah, that's what it generated. So for my work, I think it was related, but it did not cover one part at all. So maybe the prompt should be more detailed for SciTAI. But I think it is a very good tool for narrowing down what papers to look at.
Yeah, that's really funny. It does seem to be an entirely different Harriet Mullins. It's in the
I
literature
know.
review.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good. We shouldn't throw out our common sense yet.
Yeah.
That's the other thing, right? There might be several other I don't know, but the specificity of the prompts is important as well. And really reading through it. Otherwise, you'll do a citation on someone that's completely different as well.
Yes.
That's probably a good way to end. I feel like I always want to say that, you know, when thinking about AI, you have to hold two conflicting ideas in your head at once. And one is these are incredible, powerful tools that will accelerate your research. And the other is these are really stupid tools that will return things that are absolutely inane. And like, I don't think that kind of conflicting idea is going to go away, right? It's just, that's kind of the nature of these things, I think, for this foreseeable future.
Thank you. That's a great, again, returning to your opening comment of like pros and cons, things, exciting options and warnings. Thank you all. That was really incredibly helpful. And this will be up on the advanced website. So if you want to return to it, you can. And